Well, we're ready for smell-o-vision.
Yeah.
If Professor Farnsworth can make it happen. Which is actually what Disney tried to do right around the Fantasia days. They experimented with pumping in different scents during films. But the problem was you couldn't easily reset and descent the theater for the next showing. And then for a while they had the idea of having these sensory chairs where each chair would have like a vibrating motor in it or a little fan where you could introduce a scent or the audio next to your left and right. You still kind of see this in a lot of large high-scale productions like in Vegas and also in like Six Flags and stuff like that. But it kind of all stemmed from that base concept of how can we engage all the senses in the presentation.
The really terrible one is the where the movie is projected on every surface.
I don't think I know.
When I saw the second it was that kind of a production. And it's not for the whole movie. Like, they'll just shoot certain scenes like that. And it was the worst thing that I've ever experienced. It just really upset me. And you knew whenever it started doing it, it's like, oh, now the scary part's going to happen. And then when it stopped, it was like, oh, the scary part must be over.
Whenever you're ready.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of the 4th season of Next Generation's First Generation, a Star Trek The Next Generation watch-along podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Delmore, and with me is my co-host, Sascha Shouties.
Hello!
And today we are going to watch Season 4, Episode 14, Clues. And the weird thing about this is I would swear that I have only ever seen this episode twice. Once when I got the DVDs from my current roommate, and the second time this morning when I watched it to go over it before we recorded. But that image of Worf and the crew that opens this doing Tai Chi really sticks in my head, because when I was in 2nd grade when this episode aired, my teacher kind of got into wanting us to do some Tai Chi after recess to kind of as a kind of a cool down. And I remembered, like, oh yeah, they do this on Star Trek: The Next Generation. So some parts of this stuck in my head.
Yeah, it's a really neat episode. We'll kind of talk more about this coming up, but this is one in a mini sequence of episodes where they have to kind of piece together sequences of events from erased memory. Seems to be a recurring theme. So, what we would like you to do is please synchronize your playing devices. We're going to give you the countdown, and when we hit 1, you hit play. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Nice.
And this looks great. It's so good in HD. I was noticing this today.
Nice looking ship going into a nebula. Some Tai Chi. That looks like some of the Yan 24. It is a westernized version of Tai Chi that was brought in from China to sell to Americans, more or less.
It would have been fun if Nigel was here to talk us through a little bit about those movements, but not that there was a whole lot to see there, but it was cool to have most of the cast following Worf. Worf actually gets to be in a leadership role there.
Yeah, hey, it's Dixon Hill with Gloria.
And this is used to set up the idea that our episode is going to be a mystery. Picard's going to kind of lay out what a mystery is, which is not something that Guinan is particularly into. She's gonna flash her garters here in a minute, and I don't think that those are really Whoopi Goldberg's legs when that happens.
Stand-in leg?
Yep.
Maybe someone just gave her a leg up, you know?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the last Dixon Hill scenes that we see, but I'm glad we brought that. I think that's the same secretary.
Maybe, it may not be. I could not tell you.
Her name's Madeline, if I remember correctly. Right? By Rhonda Aldrich.
Yeah, not Whoopi.
Yeah, no, Whoopi is Whoopi. We know who Whoopi is.
She was about to film the surprise hit of 1992, Sister Act.
Oh yeah, that was a smash, man.
Yes. It was not expected to be as big of a movie as it was, but it was huge. And if we get back to our regular recording schedule, we could definitely look at that. We have a lot of friends that like that movie. I like that movie. I actually own it on DVD, but
Yeah, I like how Guinan's saying, I've got to be on the holodeck at 2:00, and this character just has no idea what's going on.
Yep.
Oh, and Guinan's got a gun in her face.
And this goes back to the idea that Patrick Stewart and the character of Jean-Luc Picard were in a constant battle between what they wanted. Actually, God, that would be a great episode of Picard if they wanted to do a cool wrap-up for the show. Have Picard meet Patrick Stewart. But what I mean...
How do you mean?
Yeah. Have
Picard...
you introduce Patrick Stewart, the actor who has played Jean-Luc Picard for 33 years now, to Jean-Luc Picard.
Well, they've done just about everything else in the franchise. Do you think they could break the fourth wall like that?
Oh, for sure. But what I'm talking about here is it's like Patrick Stewart is totally in love with the idea that Picard is a cowboy and Picard goes on fun adventures. But he's also he also really gets into the Picard character, who every time you see Picard do Dixon Hill, he hates this part of it with the gunplay.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to hang out in the 40s and go to a bar, and he didn't want Guinan to have to deal with this guy with the gun. He wanted to probably just have drinks with her in a different setting where she's not the bartender and he doesn't feel like, he's taken up her time.
This is where Guinan and Picard would probably do better in the Toontown series there, or not the series, but the Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Just about the same time period,
Yep. Well, I think the set for the bar from the episode where Waxana falls in love with a hologram was from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Well, that makes sense. It was just about the same time, like in the 80s too.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, they came out. That was a season 2 episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that sounds about right.
So for funsies, David calls Picard on the phone in the holodeck about this wormhole that they're about to hit.
Which is great. I love it. Well, look at this silver fox here flying the ship.
Mr. One Pip.
He's got gray hair and only
when he heard about the Borg, he joined up and now he's on the flagship.
There we go. So, looks like party's canceled there in the holodeck.
Like, I gotta go. This place is fun. I mean, stay below 12th, but yeah, you can hang out.
Yeah, if you want a Tommy gun, there's one in the closet. You can go hunting. Just don't save over my progress. He looks so short and miserable in his uniform compared to dressed up in 1940s Dixon Hill.
Yep.
And he's looking at the void. Looks kind of more like a black hole than a wormhole. But this isn't the first time we've heard about wormholes, right?
No.
When did wormholes first show up in Star Trek?
I don't know.
Was that a TOS kind of thing?
I don't believe that they talked about wormholes in TOS, but it becomes very popular in Next Gen, and obviously Deep Space Nine is all about a wormhole. It's the first stable wormhole known to exist,
Oh, everybody's passed out. Yep. Data's got that stoic look on his face. Well, folks, it is February 11th, 1991 in Star Trek times, and 2021, 30 years later, where I don't think 11-year-old me would have possibly guessed in a million years that we had a pandemic raging. So I hope all is well with you and that you are enjoying what you can in your downtime. Pat and I have been having a lot of fun recording these episodes over Skype to continue the fun review of our favorite childhood show.
We're staying safe. Sasha's down in Next Gen, First Gen South, and I'm here in Kentley Studio. It's funny because all of the shows have now come back for all the TV shows here in it's November when we're recording, have kind of come back from pandemic.
Yeah, they're starting to release now.
Yeah, and everybody's got their masks on. Except the problem is that, it's like they don't always. And a lot of the time it's a lot of people like in one small space. And you think like, yeah, that's necessary for TV. But it's also not what you should do.
Yeah. So this episode was directed by Les Ledoux, story by Bruce Arthurs. And
there's a name we haven't heard before.
Oh, and the teleplay...
Bruce.
Go ahead, Bruce?
I said Brucey.
Bruce. And the teleplay was by Bruce and this guy named Joe Manosky.
We know Joe Manosky. He's a regular contributor.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, everybody's rising.
Hey, wake up, Captain. You're sleeping, buddy. You doing all right?
Oh, her arm hurts. There's the first clue.
Yep.
I wish I had watched Jonathan Frakes get up right there. I was so busy looking at her arm. I'm like, I wonder how bad his back hurts in this scene.
We had a CPR class years ago when I took CPR classes on the regular, and when they tell you how to detect signs of a heart attack, it's all based on what would happen to a man. The instructor, who was male, of course, was like, yeah, anything could be a symptom in a woman.
Oh, man.
He's like, you just need to play it by ear. And it's like, really? So I never thought about this, but I've been listening to a lot of Greatest Generation this week. And, Gates McFadden, that's a wig.
Oh, yeah?
She's got like 3 Dr. Crusher wigs.
Yeah, because whenever you see like pro photos of her, like in just normal Gates McFadden life, she has really thin hair. She's still a redhead though.
And the other thing is, if you're on TV or in a movie that everybody sees all the time, when you're in the world, you want to not look like you did in the thing if you don't want people to bother you a bunch.
And then you get locked in the part otherwise.
Yeah.
So there's a second clue. Troy has a headache. So
Troy always got the headache.
Well, just as your CPR analogy, anything could be wrong in a woman. Anything could be. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my gosh.
Let's narrow that window down to anything could be wrong with Troy.
So I'm gonna get hate mail for this. I apologize. So I'm gonna back it up. But whenever Troy is feeling uncomfortable or just genuinely pissy, you know that it's gonna be a driver of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go. Mr. O'Brien, he hurt himself.
Miles is complaining about doing something for the missus.
All right.
She wants him to be a botanist. We have seen Miles in here with the doctor a few times this season. I think this is the first time we've heard Nurse Ogawa called by her first name, Alyssa.
Mm-hmm, but she has been around.
Yes. First appeared in the episode where Riker goes to the future.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. O'Brien there always has problems with his arms, if you notice. That's kind of like the hallmark injury for him.
As you would if you're an engineer. Mm-hmm. He probably gets carpal tunnel.
Now there's the third clue. All of Beverly's fungus have had a orgy in the petri dish, and now it's a lot of fungus.
Guesses. Nurse Ogawa, did you mess with that? I don't mess with your stuff, doctor. Come on. And you asked me this like in front of a bunch of patients? Like, is this the relationship we have?
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question here, Pat. Do you watch Red Dwarf? Have you watched Red Dwarf?
Oh, of course. We've talked about Red Dwarf many times on this podcast.
So there's an episode called Thanks for the Memory where Lister wanted to give some memories to our hologram friend, boy, the name escapes me at the moment.
Rimmer.
Yeah, Rimmer, that's right. And they throw a party, but it becomes a big emotional catastrophe. So the only thing they can do is wipe everybody's memory. But then they find themselves trying to figure out, why do I have a broken foot? Why are these logs erased? What's going on? Where's our ship? Yada, yada, yada. And it's a striking similarity between this episode and that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the Memory aired, I want to say 89, 88, right around there. Something like that.
It. Red Dwarf has had a long production schedule, and it is, as we've mentioned, it's back on TV.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, they broke the fourth wall. They were able to go back and meet themselves in the 2000s or late 90s.
I believe it was the 2010. No, it was in the 2010s.
Yeah, where the Starbug was a VW bug.
But there's also one where they met them all themselves as actors. Because like Craig Charles was doing Coronation Street, and Danny John Jules was doing his thing.
Mm-hmm. Now that look from Data there was probably the most suspicious, non-emotional face I've ever seen of Data.
Yeah.
I wonder how many takes did it take Brent to get that look like, nothing's going wrong, I'm just a robot doing my job.
Picard's looking at these like, oh yeah, those great pink eclairs. These were illegal because they had like toys in them the kids could choke on.
Well, actually,
bring them across international borders.
I thought she was growing edible bath bombs, or perhaps loofahs.
Yeah. It's like, that's entirely too sexual for this show.
Yeah. So
maybe the night shift.
The night shift. Do we need to wake the bald guy? Nah, we got it.
Yeah.
So this is the first truly forensic question that comes up: is what is up with these plants? And they're using the ship's clock and Data as proof that everything is okay. So we're getting into second layer clues now. Oh, and Picard, he is concerned, which means he's got buy-in. So one thing I've noticed about this show is it doesn't take much to get the plot started. All you have to do is say, oh, there's this one little thing. Oh, investigation time. And
it's like, hey, cool snacks.
When I was a kid, I thought that's how the adult world worked. You just brought up a small concern, and then whoever you're working with was supposed to dump all of their resources into solving what would otherwise be a very minor problem.
God, I kind of wish that's how it did work,
Right? And like, I thought that's how hospitals worked, or engineers, or police, or, fire departments do this, obviously, because, the building's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a rude awakening when I became a teenager, when I realized there's complacency in the world. But what about Star Trek? Like, Star Trek really gave me the work ethic that I think I have, because just they needed to move the plot along, but I took it a little too seriously as a kid.
And it's funny because conversely, and we've mentioned this before, it's inconceivable that you could be on a spaceship right now and you could be as casual as this.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody would have to be doing something to make the ship go. If the senior staff really just sat around and discussed problems like this, it would be to the great resentment of like every engineer, every medical personnel.
I would see it more as a comparison to a modern, let's say, aircraft carrier, where they may be sailing from one place to another, but they're not quite on mission. They're not running sorties. They're not launching, planes or manning guns. It's
a submarine.
Or a submarine. There you go.
Because the key factor you have to remember is all of the environment outside of the ship is deadly.
True. True.
You're on a submarine. You're underwater, which means that, you know, if anything happens to the hull, everybody is dead. Same with the Enterprise for the most part. I mean, yeah, they have shields and. So anyway, they're worried something's wrong with Data, that he's lying to them about what happened when they were all knocked out.
So they're looking around, pulling things apart. Data's going to continue to lie. He's keeps on insisting that this is a wormhole. And I don't think it's revealed yet that Data knows the truth of what's going on. It's a supposition at the moment.
But let's continue by dropping, you know, what it is that happened. Since everybody listening to this, I assume, has seen the episode. They went past a very xenophobic culture, which xenophobic is to my mind a negative term. It means that you're anti all other cultures. It's only used in the negative, but this Data uses it in a very live and let live sense. And they put this wormhole there as a trap to keep people away, so they didn't remember that they saw their planet. It just didn't quite work on the Enterprise.
Yeah, their innate curiosity came back. Oh, that was kind of neat. I've never. So we're in the HD version, and the graph on the bio bed jumped around when the doctor scanned her.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I didn't even notice that before. That would have not happened in the 80s. All right, so here we go. We're getting into the forensics of it. Dr. Crusher is making her pitch that everyone's got an eternal clock of 24 hours. Certain things should be happening. It's a measurable effect. There's evidence. And she is running into a discrepancy of that evidence. So we're going to find out here, fairly soon. I probably would say within the next maybe about 10 minutes that something's really wrong and they need to move along the plot. Which is funny because I watch Discovery now and also Picard. And this kind of investigation would be compressed down to about 2 minutes rather than the first quarter of the show.
The other big thing that we learn later is it's like nothing is actually wrong. They did what they were supposed to do. The problem was that there existed enough suspicion to feel like they needed to investigate. It's like say you see like a shifty looking kid and you're working at a grocery store and he's hanging around by the candy. He's got his hands in his pockets. He walks out and there's no candy missing. Why was he acting like that?
Well,
you go to you go the next day. He comes in. You're like, you were acting real suspicious when you were here in the store. You want to talk to us about that?
Well,
and it turns out what was going on is that he's not a kid. He's an undercover cop. But he didn't want the people in the store to know that because they would treat him different. But unfortunately, because his behavior was such that it drew attention to himself.
Yes. Hey, I want to.
So that's what's going on with Data.
Yeah.
Is that he's not acting. Data's not acting right,
yeah.
Even though there's nothing that's actually wrong. It's they just didn't do due process to make sure that nobody was worried about anything, and that's where we end the episode at. It's like, this was a good idea to erase all our memory, but we didn't work hard enough at it.
So if anything, I want to say that maybe that they're responding to Data differently. There's a bias that Data should act a very particular way. And so him not acting in that way, him looking kind of shifty, as you say, is what is tripping everybody up. That's kind of the icing on the cake. By the way, we're looking at Data's skull right now with the red, yellow, and green LED lights flashing around. Newsflash, those were the three colors that you got back then. They came out with blue, and then they figured out how to do white, and then now we have LED TVs and monitors and everything. But this was still a very unattainable technology back then in the 90s, which is kind of hard to believe. But there it is.
So what Picard finally comes to with Data after all of this is that he would only act this way, although really he doesn't. There's a bunch of other stuff that it could be, but you know, he just happens to get it right. Picard does. He would only act the way he's acting if he was ordered to act that way. And he's like, I didn't do it, so Data must have been in communication with Starfleet before that, or while they were all passed out, and he was given an order that came from above Picard's level.
Well, it turns into a question of loyalty.
Now, if Picard was a really good interrogator, it absolutely is a question of loyalty. But we're also looking at Data as he's a person that follows certain rules. He's not a person. He's a machine. This is what's going to be hard when we do actually start working side by side with sentient machines, which will happen in our lifetime. Is remembering that they're not people.
Wow, you're starting the AI war a little early there, buddy.
Because what you could do, which would have been fun to watch in this, is play a game of, you know, every time Data says he can't answer a certain question, to ask it slightly differently and get all the clues from Data.
Troy screams.
Yes.
And so Worf, just before he dropped her off, she walked through the door, and Worf had this look on his face like, man, what am I doing working here? You should have seen it. He shook his head and looked at the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, and now Deanna's freaked out about a weird non-reflection issue. Psychokinetics illness, let's call it.
Well, Worf and Troy have an off-screen friendship too.
Oh yeah,
that's building it.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's built. They have their professional relationship, especially. I mean, the books aren't really canon, but they do help with making Troy a better character. Is that they work together frequently. They're assigned to do things, and once Worf's kid comes back on the ship, Troy really locks into him on a personal level, helping him learn to be a better dad. But so at this point, Worf may already have feelings for Troy. And this is in a very adolescent, not mature sense, but if you were ever in a situation where you walked a cute girl home and didn't kiss her goodnight, and then you looked down and were like, oh man.
Yeah.
Should have kissed her.
Yeah. It's a very subtle friendship. You don't even see it coming until they start dating in the final episode. So this scene here with Worf in the sickbay reminds me strongly of when him and Dr. Pulaski would come in and interact.
Yeah.
Because those two had a really strong relationship. Or friendship, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, Pulaski would have been very different about the whole Data thing. She would have been like, if Data's not being helped, they'll stop asking Data to help. You got to solve this mystery without Data. Forget about him. Have him, count every grain of rice in a bag and, figure this out on your own. But they're trying to appeal to Data's morality, which he doesn't have.
Data not having morality?
No, he doesn't have morality.
Oh, I think he does.
No, he follows a military code of conduct.
But he does have values as an individual, because we've seen him act on those values, and it breaks the plot. Kind of like when he reaches out to that kid on the ham radio, more or less, he built in his quarters. That was a big breach because he felt obligated to help. He was about to shoot the person who kidnapped him. I think it was that last season. where he was a piece of a collection, if you recall. But they beamed him away, and it was mid-discharge during the beam out, so he didn't actually end up killing the person. So that indicates that's a behavior based on a value. He had a reaction.
It is not by choice, and it takes Picard forever to figure out what he means. It's not by choice. He's responding to an order.
And he can't... It's kind of like, I have a secret. I can't tell you about it, but you need to figure out what it is. There we go. Picard says, by you not cooperating, you're actually helping us. And Data says, well, that's not what I'm saying, but it is a possibility. They've never known Data to be ambiguous about anything.
No.
And I think that's also why they are very suspicious. Oh, and here comes the direct order. And Data says no. Look at Picard's face. He doesn't know what to do next. Now, does Picard actually threaten to pull Data apart and look for his...
No, he says that if Data resigns his commission, or if he's kicked out, then it's like Picard can't protect him. Picard would rather protect him. Because Picard does not see him as a machine. Picard understands that he is a machine, but he sees him as a member of his crew first.
Oh yeah, there we go. Stripped down to the wires to find out what's going on. They would not do that to any other individual.
No.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you lied about some missing time, so I'm going to cut open your brain and look for the answer. You might die because of it, but we'll have our answer.
The only person on the ship that could break Worf's wrist is Data.
No, actually, I think it was Troy. In the when they replay the flashback.
Yeah.
She's whatchamacallit? She's embodied by whichever species this is. There's a really interesting article that I recommend you read. It's on sci-fi.com called 8 Moments That Turned Picard and Data into Star Trek's Top Bromance. And
yeah, it is kind of tough because here we know how Picard ends, which is with Data and Picard telling each other that they love one another. Which I never got.
No?
No.
All right.
Picard has a professional loyalty to his crew, and he would always have been, if Data had left the ship and become a professor at Columbia like he did in All Good Things, Picard would always have been excited to see him. But no, I don't think that they really had a bromance. I mean, however, it is now canon. It has been stated that's how they felt about each other.
Well, they are now technically living in each other's headspaces since Picard was able to visit Data's soul within this weird archive computer on the planet of Data's. Or Data children. Well, anyway, so we have really strayed from this plot.
We have.
So they went back. They found the mystery planet that they cannot find, which they have found, and said, hey, this is not the same planet that came up in our logs. So there's something going on. And now Picard is kind of realizing too late that they were in a conflict, there was a stalemate, and maybe they had to leave in order to survive. And Riker just says, well, maybe we should have just left well enough alone. Which is probably one of the smartest things I've seen anybody say in this episode.
Yep, because that's what they should have done, was left well enough alone.
Well, it's funny because you think that with enough weird things that happen in space in Star Trek universe that you could just put up a little signal buoy that says, if you investigate this, you'll die because of weird stuff.
Right, but the whole point is that nobody's supposed to know that it's there.
Ah, right.
You don't put up a signal buoy. This is the goal here is just to not report that they saw this planet.
Yeah. Hey, it looks like a light show from the 90s there with the green laser effect. Oh, look at that.
Green laser. Might be a probe. Everything's a probe to you, Mr. Worf.
He's that alien.
Yeah.
He's looking for the probe. Oh, okay, so Deanna is having
Who
flashbacks.
sleeps like this?
Apparently her. What? Am I going to have another kid? No.
Yeah.
Oh, the child episode, that was, we haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was a really nice face change for her.
Mm-hmm. What is it, lady?
Uh-oh.
I'm the alien now. Look at me walk like I'm possessed.
I love how they kind of did a audio change on her voice.
She's having fun, though. One of the few times she gets to have fun.
Well, I'll tell you, all of these actors and actresses love it when they get to play out of character.
Yeah.
Who is it that played Kira?
Nana Visitor.
Yeah, Nana Visitor. I always want to call her Neighbor for some reason. Nana Visitor said that her character was kind of like an acting buffet because that character just had such a wide emotional range.
Yep.
And then they would change up realities on her, too, from time to time.
You know why you want to call her Neighbor?
Why?
Because neighbors visit.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
She looks like she'd be a fun person to have at a party.
Absolutely.
I've never seen her look bored or disinterested or low energy in anything.
Yeah.
All right, so Picard is kind of doing the test of what's going on to Data. Hey, here's the planet. Here's an energy field. What is going on? This is almost like a more violent version of the time loop episode where they get stuck with Captain Fraser, more or less.
Yes, which we have not covered yet.
No, that's on its way up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really slow for modern television.
I know. He's like, oh, now I get it. The secret code is the nursery rhyme he told his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Was it me? Did I do this to you? Like you were drunk and you got better, but you know those blackouts. There's a lot you don't know.
All right, now Worf's response either here in the flashback is really strange.
Yeah.
No, it's in the flashback. There we go. Data is now finally becoming forthcoming. I ordered you to lie. Yeah, you did.
If I ever ordered anybody else here to do that?
I swear, this is like the slowest response crew in Starfleet. They're just standing around like, what's going on? Something's happening.
Is this a bad thing? What's Troy doing over there?
We should have a meeting about this. They launched a photon torpedo. Let's discuss that. Oh, there we go. There's the modulating shield effect, which is kind of cool. It's almost like they learned that from the Borg or something. Paxons is the name of this species.
The Bill Haxons.
and I love how nobody really noticed her standing there. Yeah,
she's kind of the potted plant of the crew,
right? And Worf just such a phony. He just grabs the phaser off of the console, like.
It's like, okay, it's Worf's review. So you kill the guy, kill the Klingon. You pointed a phaser at the counselor.
With Data in between them.
Yeah.
This guy, or remember when he jumped behind the ambassador he was trying to protect,
Yep.
And that caused that ambassador to die. That was a season 1. That guy, he's just really bad at his job.
Yeah.
And he's still standing at the back of the bridge. You know, if I were him, I'd be up.
What am I supposed to do? And, you know, sometimes the security chief needs a security chief, you know?
Man, if I was him, I'd at least stand right there where Data is, you know, so I could, you know, maybe 6 feet away. So if I needed to go hands-on, I could. Oh, it's the flashback sequence. A wild party on night shift on the Enterprise. Everybody's passed out on the floor. Red cups everywhere. But Data is acting quickly, and he is trying to beat the Paxons with random fluctuations of shield frequency modulation. Boy, say that 3 times fast. Captain, do you hear a penny whistle? Oh no, this is the wrong episode where he's unconscious on the bridge. Sorry.
So to loop back to the CPR thing, it's like, so, if you see your buddy pass out, get out a tricorder and scan them.
Yeah.
I was told, to try to, get them alert, see if they're, whether or not they're conscious. No. Tricorder can do that.
Wow, I think that's the first time I've ever heard Worf not recommend using a weapon.
Yep.
Uh-oh, shields have been you've been penetrated. And everyone just sitting so calmly, looking around. And Deanna gets zoomed. Again, watch Worf's reaction. Totally canned.
Okay,
Look at that.
Come down here, do a little hop. Do a little fall. Do a little oof. Get down tonight. Get down tonight. She'd hurt Worf. It's like if they punched Superman. No, Captain, that would be if they broke Data. Worf's like the other tough guy.
He's the second string tough guy.
Yeah, he's the oaf.
So when your NFL team doesn't have any quarterbacks out because they're all sick due to COVID, you call in Worf. I don't know if you heard that. That happened a few weeks ago, where a team was playing and they didn't have a quarterback, but they went forward with the game. They brought in the practice team quarterback, and they got their butt kicked.
Of course they did.
Yeah, I think it was the Broncos and somebody else. I can't remember who. Anyway, so Picard is giving his 30-second diplomatic fix. This is the problem in the box example. One day to reset everything. So that's the ultimate.
You know what they could figure out? How to make Data not immune to their influence.
Couldn't they just turn him off for a day?
Yeah, that's another thing they could do.
And because technically, if you can cease all functions of Data, then he would not know that he was turned off. I'm sure you could do a complete power down where his internal clock. It's kind of like removing the BIOS, the battery from your BIOS chip on your computer. Your computer won't know because the battery isn't there to power the internal clock after it's turned off.
I mean, to be fair, every time Data gets turned on, he's all like, "Oh my god!"
I would too if someone stuck their finger up my spine.
Not my spine, is what the kid would say.
So, in modern television, this speech, we're in, minute number 41, 42 of the episode? If this show was shot now, Picard and Data and the alien would be having this conversation within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole plot would probably be about, okay, how do we reset our timeline, but also how do we protect you to keep other people from coming in? And then because that's one thing that is so strange about Next Gen. It's all about the survival of the ship. They don't really look at the consequences of their actions after they leave. It's like there's going to be another ship. There's a freighter that comes through here moving stem bolts every 3 weeks. Yeah, we got to move. That's Bill and Gus.
Self-sealing stem bolts?
Yeah, those are the ones. Troy is so ahedonic. Is that what it's called? I only learned that word because I watched Deep Space Nine. The ability not to feel joy.
Ooh. Sorry, I had a emergency lantern in my desk that ran on AA batteries.
Oh,
and
no.
The batteries are all melted.
What?
I'm pulling them out now, yeah.
Like melty batteries?
Yeah.
Is this an on-air emergency? Oh,
no,
geez.
it's not an emergency now, but I'm glad I took them out.
Do you have your tricorder? Did you try scanning the batteries?
Yeah, like the springs in here are all rusted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, look at that. The episode ended. Almost. Oh, they start with waking up.
Oh, on my back again. Doctor, what have you done to me? Oh.
Riker's so slumped over, like, oh, my back. Oh, my back.
Oh, your back. My Patrick Stewart pride. I mean, my Picard pride.
That's why he's got that bald spot back there. He keeps on sleeping with his forehead on the ground.
Yeah, I'm glad these did not explode. Oh my god! You want to know when they expired?
When?
2013.
Oh man, 7-year-old batteries.
Yeah, and I hadn't even had that lamp that long either.
Those batteries are older than most television shows and children.
Yep.
Wow, there we go. So, we're getting reports from all decks, everything's fine, other than people are disoriented. We should launch a probe to investigate. And Data says, this is most likely anomalous, and we shouldn't worry about it.
Anomalous is our business, Mr. Data.
Whoa. They could have spent 15 minutes hilariously teaching Data how to lie.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the cool part, is because...
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg was here.
She could have done it. She could have been like, okay, Data's the linchpin, because every time we go through this, let's have him go through the amnesia 3 or 4 times, and then the alien comes and is like, look, you guys keep blowing it. Data keeps on telling a terrible lie, which clues you all in. And Picard says, well, we don't want to kill Data, but we need, this plot to, we need to find resolution in this situation. So you get Whoopi or Guinan to come in and have lying exercises with Data. So
honestly, her whole thing would just be, you know what? Maybe it's not important. Maybe if Data says he doesn't want to answer, he doesn't have to answer.
Oh, there you go.
Because I mean, let's look at what actually happened. It was a slow day on the Enterprise, so Picard wanted to do some Dixon Hill with Guinan. Mm-hmm. That didn't work out. Then there was a wormhole. They went through it and they passed out for a day. Not because anything major happened, but just because the wormhole aliens were like, stay away from us.
Okay.
But they were so bored. They were like, I don't know, we didn't grow beards, but plants grew. Let's play it a mystery with Data. And then they find the solution to the mystery, and it's like, what's the solution? Don't open the box. Okay.
But they have to.
Better not open the box.
Well, that's the whole plot device right there. If you see a sticker that says "Don't do this," what are you gonna do? You're gonna see what happens when you do. Well, this was right after Devil's Due, before First Contact. So it takes some time for them to fly from one planet to another, and yeah, it's a slow day on the Enterprise, like you said.
Yeah, it's a bottle show. I mean, they had the Dixon Hill office, but the rest of it's just on the ship in various quarters, so all sets that they already had.
That scene with Guinan could have been attached to any episode when you think about it.
Except for the whole part where they talk about, what's fun? solving a mystery, which is what we're going to do in this episode.
Right. Well,
so
go ahead.
After having to sit through this twice in a day, and again, this is... I like this episode in principle, but... in theory I like it, but man, in practice, yeah.
It's a forgettable episode.
Yeah.
This is like that other time when the Enterprise is stuck in some plane where they're physically stuck in space, and Troy keeps on getting this nightmare saying 1 moon, 2 circles, or whatever it is.
That's up. We haven't done it yet.
Oh, this is just as bad as that one. And you know,
in the dark.
1 moon, 2 circles. Well, for bouts of amnesia, I give this maybe about 2 bouts of amnesia.
Yeah, I'll give it 2.5 bouts of amnesia, and may my amnesia return so that I can one day enjoy this episode again.
Haha, there you go. Well, I kind of clued into what our next episode is. That's the Riker becomes James Kirk while stranded in an alien hospital, and the only way to escape is to have sex with a nurse. Not bad. So that's pretty much the whole episode, but we still encourage you to tune in and listen. I think that one comes up, February 18th, so that's just a week from now. Well, my friends, it's been fun. Thank you very much. Make sure to check out our archives of our Shore Leave series where we review some movies. That is on which website?
Two True Freaks.
Oh, yes. All right. Well, with that, I'd like to say, have a wonderful day.
Why am I interviewing you guys?
So you're the guest.
So Sascha, what's a Star Trek
Hi,
Next Generation?
I'm the guest.
So Sascha, what is Star Trek Next Generation?
Seek us out at Next Generation's First Generation at iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Music credits include Electric Car by Poddington Bear, Broke for Free, As Colorful as Ever, Recreation by Airtone, Star Song by Lee Rosevere, Audio Engineering by Sascha Shouties, Chief Meme Maker and episode cover credit goes to Matthew Kirshner. Logo and graphic art design credit goes to David Clawwitter. And special thanks to Patrick Delmore for working with other podcasts to make sure the good word gets out.
If you'd like to email the show, you can email us at nextgenfirstgenpod@gmail.com. I've been Patrick Delmore.
And this is Sascha Shouties. Thank you very much for listening, and have a wonderful day.
Good night.